next week we will call to order with the ringing of a bell. So consider the bell just been rung. Anyway, tonight's demonstrator needs no introduction at all. It's our very own Simon. And I have to say that I have been a great admirer of your work since I turned up here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I
Thank
love
you.
it. So tonight we're going to be very kind to him. We're going to ask lots of interesting questions from the floor, which he will
Yes, you can ask questions. I don't know if I know all the answers. But,
and this is your debut, isn't it?
This is my debut.
Oh, right. So give me
Who'd have thought I'd be here doing this? Thank you.
our very own Simon.
I feel like I'm at International Watercolour Masters, you know, doing a demo there. So what I'm doing, first of all, I'm wetting my watercolour paper. So I'm going to wet it both sides, because I quite... What's that, sorry? Yes, Arches, if I can, or Saunders Waterford. Yeah. Usually, the £300 thickness, or 140. Sometimes I use thicker paper, depending on...
Is it cotton paper?
Yes, yeah, 100% cotton, yeah. But I'm still going to wet it both sides, because I actually quite like working wet into wet, because as the paper dries as you're going, you can get all sorts of different textures and effects, and I just feel really comfortable working, in that particular way. And I've had some really sort of nice,
Can I ask a really
satisfying.
question?
Yes, of course.
Wet both sides.
I'm wetting both sides because I want to keep the paper for as wet as long as possible.
You just want it really wet.
Yeah, I don't want it to dry out, basically, because that's going to give me longer to work with it, and I can keep working it and adding to it, and it just gives me more time, really, so I don't feel I've got to rush before it dries. And it also keeps the paper really flat as well, so I don't have to stretch it or anything.
Do you paint on a tray then?
Yes. Yeah, just to sort of keep things tidy, really, and it sticks to the tray so until it dries, so it doesn't buckle, or it keeps its shape. And I just got so fed up with using, every time I try to use the tape, it always come off when it's dried. So I thought no. And I did actually see, when I went to the Watercolour Masters and I did the course with Herman, he actually does the same thing. He wets his paper both sides. When I did the course with Herman Peckel at the Watercolour Masters, he wets his paper both sides. Well, he at least wets the back, but I have a different style, so I like to do both sides.
So do you not paint at all once it's done and dry?
Sorry, what do you
Do
mean?
you not, once it's all finished and dry, can you look at it and then not touch it at all?
Yeah, sometimes I might add little bits, but the main areas of this painting are going to be done wet into wet, and then I'm going to dry it a little bit during half time, and then we'll do like the final details, like well, I'll leave it to your imagination.
Washing the paper on both sides stops it burning.
Yeah, that's it. Just going to making sure. I should have really done this, but I had to set up the projector and everything, so I'm a little bit behind. I'm just making sure it's really even. See, it's gone a little bit. Just the tray.
Does the tray itself get full?
No, not too much. I just sort of wipe the excess with a tissue around the side. It's good because I just look at the light and just to see if I've missed any bits. I've also got some spray bottles as well, so that I can sort of keep spraying it as I go along, and that sort of helps give me a bit more time as well. So, I have the one I did earlier. I'm going to use for my reference. Just find the right one. Hopefully, so this is a practice one that I did. Well, I did 2 practice ones. I thought just in case, but this is what we're aiming for. Hopefully it will turn out as good as this. So that's what we're going to do, nice sort of wintry landscape. And then that was my first attempt with the other one. Sometimes I'll do maybe 2 or 3 paintings. You know, sometimes I do small paintings, sometimes I do a bigger painting, to get a feel for how it works out. The way my brain works is I have to see things visually, and that helps me sort of plan how the watercolour reacts, and I sort of know what I can and can't do. And it's, you know, it's just good practice really. So that was the first one. I'm going to pass this around, and then I'm going to use this one as my reference.
Yes.
So I'm not going to use any pencil marks, because I'm just going to use this time. I'm just going to be. So I use Rosa watercolour paints. Has anyone heard of Rosa? They're from Ukraine, but they're really rich pigments, and they're really good actually. And they're like £3 or £4 for a 10mm tube. So I think they're really good value. Rosa watercolour. Yeah, some of them have got sort of different names. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a bit of yellow first. I'm going to use a Azo yellow, AZO. I don't mind if I get a little bit of orange mixed with it. So what I want to do is I want to create that sort of nice sort of the sun and the yellows of the sun coming through first of all. Let's use that one as well, and then I'll do the other one. I did have a smaller one. So these obviously, everyone knows these are Hake brushes. So they're quite good for doing like your washes and your first layers.
What brushes are
Hake brushes.
they?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're very cheap actually. And
Ice cream brushes almost, aren't they?
yeah. And they're really good actually. I really like them. Sometimes I use these more than I use my other brushes. I've got some like Chinese watercolour brushes, like £2 each, and I've used those more than I've used my expensive ones. So I'm not making the paint too watery because I don't want it to spread an awful lot. So because my paper's really wet, I don't want it to so let's go for here. I'm going to start about here. I'm just going to sort of work really loosely. Not really caring, not worried about what it's going to look like, or just going to drop some sort of colour in. And what I'm doing is I'm using a bit of tissue, which is dry. I'm just going to roll it into a ball. And I'm just going to sort of blot out where my sort of sun is coming through. I don't want it to really be a perfect shape because there's little bits of cloud obscuring it. And then I'm going to use, oh that's better. I thought it was a bit dark. And then I'm going to use a bit of golden yellow. They all look the same, some of them. Yeah. Oh, cadmium yellow deep. Yeah, that'll be fine. I always try to use fresh paint if I can, because you get sort of much nicer colours, a bit bolder, a bit fresher. And someone told me that if you're entering into competitions, judges can tell whether you've used fresh paint or just paint from your palette that's been dried for a while. So I'm just sort of dropping in some. So this is cadmium yellow deep. First one was cadmium yellow. Oh no, sorry, azo yellow, AZO. So I'll keep spraying, because I don't want the paper to dry out too much. I don't really want any sort of particularly hard edges at the moment. I think that's enough sort of yellow and orange. That's really dirty.
Has anyone not had a look yet?
What's that, sorry? Now I'm going to use azul blue. I want to get this really nice purple. Let's just mix that up first. Again, I don't want it to be too watery. Sort of like a cream texture, like Elmley. And then what I'm going to do is add a little hint of bright red.
Is that cadmium red?
It just says bright red, this one. So I'm going to just put a little bit in here. I'm just going to pick up a little bit on the edge of my brush, just to mix that in. Got a bit of practice paper here, so I can just check the colours. Got a kind of feeling I just need a little bit more. It's better to add just a little bit at a time, rather than add too much and then realise you've got the wrong colour. Just test it on there. No, it's another there. Much more red. That's starting to look a bit more like it.
Should you practice paper arches as well?
I don't think this is actually, no, I think it's just cartridge paper.
It's quite expensive.
Yeah, but sometimes I like to practice on even the best paper, because then you know how it's going to look on the final thing. Because you just. Well, it's a little bit too blue at the moment, so it's too dark. So I need to add a bit more red to it. That's a bit better, so that's actually starting to look a bit more So I don't want to have too much. It's just slightly. Just add a little bit more blue into there. It's quite a rich. It's quite dark, isn't it? I can't really tell from here. I think I did use that one before, didn't I? Or did I use that one? Actually, I wanted to use. I think I used the wrong one actually. Pyro red. Pyro red, I think, is the. Still a bit too dark. I don't know why it's going so dark. A bit more water to that. Yeah, I mixed it perfectly the other day. Maybe just a bit more. You see how that's all spreading out? Quite nice effect. Just going to add a bit more water to it, and then I think I made it too thick. So I'm using the Pyro red. That looks a bit better. And it always dries about 20% lighter anyway. So I'm not too, just being nice and loose with it. Keep spraying it a bit. And let it sort of run a bit. Bit more water, I think. So it's spinning us a bit. And then I'm going to use a little bit of cerulean blue. I've run out of palette space now. Like these little tops from there. Quite good for individual, so you can get your colours mixed up. This one's quite thick, this paint, so you've really got to mix it well before you apply it. You see this pigment is so rich, it goes a long way. This one like little hints of sort of blue, just a little bit of that blue sky coming through. You see okay? So it's all sort of spreading out quite nicely. Yeah, I like doing this a little bit, so I use quite a lot of tissue sometimes. I like to sort of lift things out with tissue. So what I do is I want to create some sort of cloud edges. So just random places. Get a mixture of hard and soft edges. So that blends a bit more. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start now with like the far background, the distance. That's a bit dirty, that one. So I'm going to use azure blue. It's quite a nice, cool colour. So I'm just looking at my paper to see how wet it is still. And then I'm just going to sort of drop in some background trees. So this is azure blue. I'm not particularly worried about what's happening because it will all come together. Every painting has its ugly stage. And while it's wet, I'm going to do just do some of these sort of shadows coming across. While the paper's wet, it's nice soft edges. I quite like using tissue and folding it up into shapes and using it to blot areas where I don't want. So I'm going to try and keep patches, little gaps where I've got some light in the distance. I might need someone. Will someone change my water for me? Thank you very much, Clem. Okay. Yeah. So I can, yeah. So I'm going to use some of the thicker paint now. Let's do some of these. So these are my rear trees, distant trees. Now I'm going to do my sort of mid-ground trees. This is going to give the painting some depth. So I'm going to be quite thick with the paint because I don't want it to sort of spread out. I always think a painting looks better when all the marks are different. It's all random. Let's have a bigger one here. It's nice colour, isn't it? Sort of like a cherry red. I think that's the in colour this year, cherry red. You get some really nice textures coming out. Sort of doing washing out sort of little bits. By doing that, that sort of dries the paper and the paint can't spread any further, but you get sort of a nice mixture of hard and soft edges. Get some sort of nice effects. So I didn't like the sky at first, but now that's sort of, it's looking quite nice, the sky, isn't it?
Can you hold this up so we can see the colours, Simon, because they're not so good?
I think that screen's better if all the lights are out, isn't it? Which you can't really do here because I won't be able to see what I'm doing. But it's quite dark, isn't it? So I quite like that actually. It's got a quite moody sky, isn't it? Because you've got the real brightness from behind, and then the clouds are really dark almost silhouetted. Yeah, when I do a painting or I look for a painting subject, it's all about finding that wow factor about the picture, the thing that makes you go, oh, yes, that's a painting. And I think if you can find a subject that makes you go, oh, I love that painting, when you do the painting, it comes out in the painting. How are we doing? So we got actually caught up quite well, actually. So what I'm going to do now is just going to do some of this foreground shrubbery while it's wet. Anyone seen one of those before? It's sort of like a pastry brush, isn't it? It's quite good for doing textures. So what I'm going to do is use a bit of yellow ochre. Just mix it with a bit of my cadmium yellow. And just sort of doing try and get some of that light coming in and lighting up the grass behind. Here. See, it makes really nice sort of grass-like textures. I quite like to use different brushes in the painting, lots of different brushes, because you get all sorts of nice different brush strokes. I think adds sort of interest to the painting. I always think if there's something different everywhere you look in the painting, it makes it more interesting. Just be careful not to add in some sort of hints of light. Yeah, sort of trying to use some of the colours on my palette as well. Some darker areas. Yeah, I think I went a bit. So that one is, well, I think that's just a little mixture of azul blue and a bit of ochre. You almost get like a nice grey. But then I've got bits of ochre and yellow on here. And then I'm just going to do some of the shadows. All the paper's wet. I'm just going to add a bit more definition into these background trees. I'm just dropping in little spots. And I can see sort of roughly how much it's going to spread out. I don't put too much. So I think that's kind of the first part, really. So I've got my backgrounds, I've got some of the foreground trees, I've got my sky, got some of my shrubbery and the shadows. So I'm going to leave it. I think that'd probably be a good time to take a break, I think. And I'm going to sort of try and dry this as well, so it doesn't spread out too much further. And then we'll do the details in the second half. All right.
Stay back at the end when you're done. Carry on.
This one's very striking. I see.
Yes, it's started family life because I went with my daughter and her two children and their children. Yes, yeah. But the children, the youngest was 18 months and the youngest were teens. I know, and it worked. But we have an eye going back to the end of March, whatever, from the Euro I know, I've done it. We've got the track. The brushwork myself. And it was practically into
It's massive. It's like pastry. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, there's no names on them.
Really? Wow. And I think like what's up there? What's that? So it lays it down. It does. See, the colours are gorgeous, aren't they? Beautiful colours. Yes, they're beautiful. Very lovely.
I was hoping it would come out a bit more like that, but as it dries,
Yeah,
that's going to dry a bit nicer.
Yeah. Do you ever use Arabic?
Oh, gum Arabic?
Yeah.
No.
Because that also makes it like spider, like
Get some nice textures, don't
yeah,
you?
you do, yeah. Lovely. Just beautiful, isn't it? Really lovely. Your lovely piece of paper that cost £400 done to it.
Oh no, that's an old bit of paper. That's not art trees, I don't think.
It's like this. Yes. Lovely, isn't it?
It's the same paper.
What's that?
Simon, is that the same paper as that? Okay.
Yeah.
I've got posters about that.
Yeah, I haven't used that one yet, actually. But they do hold a lot of water,
Yeah, I can
actually.
imagine.
So it's pretty good if you're doing like washes and things.
Yeah,
but,
nice.
I mean, I think that was like £2.
Is it still?
Oh, okay. Oh, that's not bad.
Still very wet. Yeah, you really, the water, it's actually soaked. That paper is soaking wet.
Well, but I dry it a bit.
Yeah, you better, yeah. It's going to take a while. So you put it on the tray, it just sits down so it doesn't...
Did you put a little...
It's interesting to see.
And I think metal trays are better because it sticks better until it dries and then it
Some of those trees.
just sort of peel off, really. Just dry.
Did you put a little round thing there?
I just used a bit of tissue, just rolled up a bit of
The
tissue.
tissue. Oh, right.
Tissue trick.
I've got some of these, they're really nice.
Did you just get them online?
Yeah, I think I've got the Jacksons.
Oh, okay.
Well, they rose are they called?
They're really nice pigments.
Yeah, they don't layer very well,
Okay.
but they're very lovely to work with.
Yeah.
Because you get such strong colours. They're beautifully pigmented.
Yeah.
You're playing them. They're quite nice. They're quite reasonable. So the Jacksons are unusual. I've got them in a sale. Because I prefer Jacksons to
Yeah. Yeah. No.
to see the put the shadows in first. Yeah. Normally do the tree and then do the shadows. I suppose because you see it's the details. Yeah. After you dry first before you put those hard lines in. It looks like it's great. It's cheap. Just it doesn't fit through or anything. It says it's the tray that they say it doesn't fit through. To do all that. Yeah, I noticed that took a long time to do the waiting room. Waiting for us to try.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. It's a shame.
Detail. It's not everybody's cup of tea.
It's really good. It's hard. Yeah, definitely. And you cool down. Yeah, exactly, definitely. No, that's good. Yeah, these last 2 weeks I've had to get up half an hour earlier for work to do the exercise in the morning. It's the first 2 weeks, I nearly killed me after. Yeah, exactly. I got in one of the days and I was like, Simon looked at me, my husband, he looked at me and was like, oh dear, she's struggling today. I was like, yeah.
It's hard to do every single day.
Yeah.
Just do it
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So easy to class.
No, exactly. Yeah. I'm going to try carrying on. Because, yeah, exactly. I don't want to lose the momentum. But also, if I have a day where I think, no, not today, that's fine. And then try again. Yeah. No, exactly. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. I must admit, even my husband was like, when you said you were going to do it, I wasn't sure. I was like, okay, at least you're honest. I wasn't sure either. When you're being sponsored, I feel like there's more incentive for these going to your charity. So, yeah. But
How often we use this. So they don't use some of the tools.
no, it's not nice at all. You never know when it's going to flare. Yeah.
It's like a makeup brush, isn't it? You put your shaving cream on.
Yeah, you just can't.
Now I bought those because I thought if I ever did a really big painting,
Yeah.
something like that would be ideal for,
Yes.
doing skies, trees, and
Yes. Some artists use a decorating brush, don't they?
Yeah.
Decorating brush for that.
that's, £2, And then these were like, a whole set of these were like €8.
Really? So did you buy those when you were on holiday?
I think I just bought them off of Temu.
Oh, Tim, yes. Oh, God. Yeah,
I didn't know what to expect really. And that one as well, and I've used that one quite a lot.
Yes,
So probably-
I like Chinese brushes because they usually come to a nice point.
I mean, you
There's
can
lots of
do that.
Yeah.
You can get some nice textures, and it's quite versatile. I'll probably use this brush more than I've used everything else.
Yeah. Once you find the brushes that work for you, you stick to them, don't you?
Trouble is, you spent a fortune on all the other brushes.
Draws for Yeah,
and then it starts to
That's what it is.
Like the way that shove quite a big body.
yeah.
Very sharp.
I think that's quite dry.
and then if you say if it's too wet, then it starts to
I think the paper's yes.
Yeah, it is.
Fine point.
It kind of looks better now, doesn't it? And it's dried so much lighter.
Yeah, it really has.
yeah.
That's a great skies last week.
And I love this effect here.
Yeah.
See where you just, it looks like it's just caught the light, doesn't it? Where the ink, the paint is
Yeah, it's just like the
dense
sun.
there. Just this little bit here. It's not the only bit I like, you know. I'm just pointing out
yeah,
the way
yeah.
that it works.
And then I did the water. I thought, well, if I can't get them all
Yes, I like the way the colours blend into each other.
mixed up,
I like that light line you've got on the horizon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, very
You're going to call us to order?
Yeah.
Was that your thing ringing?
No, it's actually saying to have my turmeric and honey drink. Which I usually have at 8:30 in the evening.
yeah.
So that's quite nice actually. It's supposed to be very good for like protecting you against colds and flu.
Yeah, there was a big thing about a couple of years ago about turmeric in hot milk.
Yeah.
So we tried that. Yeah. It was quite nice. Yeah, well, it was a bit light. Have you ever tried that?
Is it just sort of constant?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I like savoury just
Always work flat like that. You don't work on an incline at all.
Depends on what I want it to do, really. If I want it to fall in any particular direction, I put it
Keep your
on an
bead
angle.
live, you want to try it, yeah, I see.
But I quite like to wear flat because then you can sort of control it
I mean,
more.
that lends itself to working flat anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's
More, I always think if it's flat.
a nice, nice rich pigment.
It is, yeah. It's, you know, it goes a long way as well.
It's very similar to sort of the Daniel Smith type colours.
Yeah.
These things, that's sort of range out.
Azure blue.
It's nice, man.
But
They're nice, aren't they?
they're so,
What do they dry like, mate?
yeah, we can see. I mean, this is like where it's dried here.
That is a really nice colour, isn't it?
You get some lovely marks, like the branches.
I'm doing. I've got one that's all like pink.
You never really know what it's going to sort of come out like, really.
No, but that's
You can sort of
beauty of it, I
you
think.
can lay the colours in a certain way, but every time you do it, you'll get a different
Yeah, I
sky.
think that's the beauty of it. This is the, they're not knowing exactly what it's going to do.
No, and once you sort of start to put the details in,
Another one which is all brown.
Yeah, I tried to buy
it should look quite nice.
So you'll visit that now with a thinner brush and
Yeah, I'm probably going to
go in there
use.
and pick out some details on the trees.
Probably going to use.
Do you go back again after that and maybe pick out more detail, or do you just?
I'm trying. Well, what I usually do now is I'm going to put in all the sort of the shrubbery, all the sort of darker tones now.
Then do you go and do highlights afterwards at the very last, or if there are any?
See how I feel, really. To be honest, if I've managed to blot out enough highlights, I think the
Probably
natural
don't need
ones
to,
look
yeah,
better,
yeah,
don't they?
yeah. Let the paper do the work.
I mean, I used a bit of gouache on that beach painting, on some of the waves, some of the spray, just like with a really dry brush, so that, not really wet at all, and then just sort of
It looks
scrape it on.
Yes, it's a nice effect, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. I quite like the way it's sort of.
I bought myself some Chinese brushes as well. I mean, I've got some really nice mop brushes now. I've got some of these actually.
Yeah, I mean these are quite about £30–40 each.
Bloody expensive.
This one was about
like 70 quid.
70 quid. Yeah, it's quite a good make. Well, it's Da Vinci,
Yeah.
and it holds so much water.
Yeah, these mop brushes, I've got 3 mop brushes and they're really nice. Look, they were expensive, hence I only got 3 of them.
You know, and they go to a really nice point as well, so you can do.
That is the whole purpose, isn't it? So I've got some of those Hake brushes as well, and they're nice and cheap.
Yeah, and do you know what? They're you know,
Well,
you
they
can
do
a whole.
what you need them to do, don't they?
It's nice to have a mixture of brushes.
But there's a lot of those Chinese brushes around now that you see.
Yeah,
They're
a lot of watercolour
competitively
artists like
priced.
to use them.
They're really
Really-
well priced.
Even Herman Peckel is one of like the best top plein air painters.
Yeah.
You know, he bought a set £8. He
Yeah.
says I use them more than I use anything else.
Yes, brilliant. All I've got to do now is start painting.
Normally it's the table and we do one here in the spring, and it hasn't got as much send out some flyers down the road. Yeah, Simon does it once a year, and he normally does it with Maggie from here. Maggie does it, and there's another lady called Maggie does it. And she's also a member of a couple of hours, so she only comes down again. Do they set you a challenge? They do a few workshops now and again. That's a separate thing.
Okay, do we do the second half? Okay, everyone, shall we continue? We'll do the second. Okay, we'll start the second half. It's 8:45, so.
Yeah, yes, sure.
Okay, so I'll do this, start the second half. Yeah, so okay.
Everyone sit down, please. It's going to resume.
Okay, so now we've got our backgrounds and everything. It's now time to add some details. So I'm going to put in a tree. So I'm using a Chinese brush. And I'm just sort of going to... No, it's actually quite dry actually. You know, that hair dryer is really good, Karen. I'll have to get myself one of those. Yeah, so I want the paper to be dry now because I don't want it to sort of bleed anymore. Now I'm just going to sort of do. Get the shape of that tree. So I'm starting just the tip of the brush, and as I come down, I'm pressing a bit more to make the branch wider as it gets near the tree. Trying to sort of round in the shapes a bit. I want it to be quite loose, so not too... it's a really good brush for doing trees and branches. I just got them off of Temu. That app, Temu. Yeah. I thought, what's up, shall I use it, shan't I? And I thought, I'll try it. And they came in about a couple of weeks. Yeah, I was, really good actually. I think they've got like a warehouse over here now, haven't they? It's like it's a Chinese. £2. Just doing some random strokes. So you can do sort of.
Where do you buy your paints?
Those are watercolours I got from Ken Bromley.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I mean, you can get them on Amazon as well, but I find you can't always get the colour you want on Amazon. So, good old Ken Bromley's is the best, I think. They sort of, I think they're they're like more exclusive to Ken Bromley's.
Yes.
I found out about them when I went to this Watercolour Masters exhibition. They had Ken Bromley's there. They had like an art stall, which was a very good, lucrative idea. Have a little art stall at a watercolour, and I think they just sold out all their stuff. Yeah, they had no shortage of customers. Even bought a few bits myself. I think actually some of the artists they've run out some of their paints, and they were quite happy to get some emergency bits. We'll do some random scribbles. This is my favourite bit. This one. Got like a big branch here which comes out. I'm not going to do all the little tiny branches. It'll take absolutely forever. So I'm just going to do some of the main ones.
So what brush would you do with the little tiny branches?
Yeah, I've got.
Brush or a different one?
There's another one which I quite like to use, which is like one of those.
All right, yeah.
Vigor. They're very good for doing the smaller branches or the finer details. But I quite like using bigger brushes, keeps it quite loose. Yes, yeah. Or sometimes I work from a picture on my iPad, this is the first time actually I've worked from a painting. But I did a couple of practice ones to get a feel for it. This is really rich paint, so I'm quite glad I mixed this because it's perfect for doing sort of the last layer, which should be your darkest tones. Some of the branches and just little suggestions. What I sometimes like to do is as well, just add a bit more water just to some of the trees. Not pressing it too hard, just sort of. And then what I can do then is drop some let's mix some of that into there to get a nice sort of purple, dark purple. And then drop some sort of. So I just want to bring out some of the detail of these trees, just to bring them forward. So I've got the very blurry sort of backgrounds to the trees, and now I'm sort of putting the foliage in, and it gets a really nice effect. It's almost as if the tree's got different sort of depths to it. Some parts of it are blurry, some parts have got harder edges. Just drops paint in. Don't know if you can see. Can you see it on there, or is it too dark? Is that? Yeah, it's getting uncomfortable, isn't it? Should try and arm's length, really. Yeah, usually sort of a high chair, so I've got just the right height. Or sometimes I stand up. I don't know if you can see the trees. I'll show them to you. So it just gives them a bit more detail. I quite like that method for doing trees, sort of spraying some water first and then dropping rich pigment in, and it all sort of bleeds and you just sort of get natural, it's almost as if the trees are making themselves, So you can be quite targeted. Coming off different angles, give it a bit of variation. I just love watching it. All different shapes. Not too much, just overdo it too much. It's very tempting to keep going back onto it and overworking watercolour, and then you can make it end up looking like an acrylic. It's just sort of knowing when to stop, really. So let's get some of these branches in. So I'm going to use my rigger. Just mix some of this darker purple in with that. And I've kept the brush quite dry, so I've got not too much water because I want some sort of dry brush strokes. add a bit of texture. That's a bit of a variation. I actually need a bit of water, it's a bit too dry. So quick, swift strokes. Strokes in all directions. Try and keep it as loose as possible. Some bits of detail in there. Some darker. Try not to think too much about. Just go for it. I've got some azure blue. Just use the side of the brush as well. Put some darker areas in. Blend it a little bit as well. Scraping with the edge of the brush. Scrumbling, as they call it. You see that you get nice texture. Just using the side. Yes, I think actually this is yeah, I think this is actually rough, which is really good if you want to do branches and grass, and you know, you can even use some of those branches showing up in the light, using some of the pigment I've already got on the paper. You get some nice varying. Just some light hints, some of those background trees now. Not too much, just little, just scraping the brush lightly on the side. the strokes a bit. Just gives it a bit more texture. Not too much because I don't really want to overdo it. This is my favourite bit. Just drop a little bit of water into the wet areas. It sort of pushes the paint and you get sort of some really nice texture. It sort of pushes the pigment out. You've got to do it when it's wet though. So. Yeah, it can have a similar sort of effect to that, yeah. Wish I had some salt now, put a bit of salt in it, but I don't know, do you think that tree looks a bit small? Yeah. Just maybe just extend it a bit more, just sort of make it a bit really sort of bring it out a bit. Just sort of trying to go thicker. It's a bit better, isn't it? You can see it a bit more. Time. Another 15 minutes and then I don't want to really do too much to it because it's a bit sort of quite loose and then I just want to add some more to these shadows, some hard edges now. Just using again the side of the brush as well. Try coming at it from different angles. Try and vary the brush strokes. Some of these into these shadows. That's a bit better now. Quite like sort of, you can soften the edges with your brush as well. But really clean water and just squeeze out all the excess water. Make sure it's really clean. And can sort of blend and soften some of the edges as well. Just add a bit of sometimes it's nice to use a bit of tissue as well, and then you can just sort of maybe lift out, just sort of dab little bits to create sort of bits of texture. Sometimes you get like the imprint of the tissue on the paper. A few darker bits every now and then. Just to give it a bit more. Can't really see some of them. Really gives it a bit of variation. Lost and found edges. Just random, not really thinking about it. Just to pick out some of it, make it a bit more. Just little bits sticking out here and there. Just little suggestions. Now you can sort of see the shape of the trees a bit more now. So it's, yeah. So nothing is the same. No mark is the same. A bit more. That's it. Thank you. You never know how it's going to turn out. I'm a bit worried that it's not bad today. I'm quite pleased. Just water, yeah, just a bit of water to, while it's a bit wet still, and get some nice sort of. Actually, it's got a tiny little bit of pigment in it still. It's just to give it a bit of a.
Does that just soften the edges? Is that...
Yeah, a little bit of splatter to. Just gives you some different marks and. a bit more sort of interest into it. If I wanted to, I could even put some, just blend some of that a bit, just to vary. And I could even fix some sort of gouache or something to, you know, have snow coming down, if you wanted to. But I think I'm quite happy with as it is, really. Yeah, I could even, I don't want it to be too, even sort of add a bit of this with the edge of the brush, just a bit of add a bit of sort of give you a hint of a bit of smaller branches. Don't want to do too much, but just come in. Don't do too much, so just a little bit sort of. Coming out a bit more, just to give it a bit more variation. Sometimes I quite like using my finger a bit as well. When it's still wet, you can bring it out a little bit, make some more texture. Just give it a bit more variety. I don't think I'm going to do too much more, otherwise you could keep going on. Yeah, I think, I don't think I'm going to do any more to that. Otherwise I'll just keep going on and then it's like looks overdone. Yeah, so a nice sort of wintry, atmospheric, loose landscape.
So much, Simon. I think
Pleasure.
for a debut, that was absolutely brilliant.
Oh, thank you, thank you. A bit nervous, but,
No, but I'm a
but
tiny,
shows you're
tiny
growing, doesn't it, when you
bit
do things like that?
disappointed though, Simon.
Huh?
Only a little bit.
You a little bit disappointed?
Yeah. There's no snowdrop in the corner.
There's no snowdrop. Are there any snowdrops out? Oh yes, yeah.
And I've got a whole set of Chinese brushes that somebody brought me back from China as a gift, and I've shoved them in the cupboard. And they've been there for about 10 years. Again, I shall now drag them out.
So now you feel like getting them out now?
The way that you use the, the fine tip and the movement you've got, brilliant.
It's nice, it's got nice little bits of light coming through as well. It's quite nice, it gives it real, makes it... I feel like a celebrity.
This one as well, because they're slightly different, which is good for you. Yeah, exactly. Really nice.
Yeah, I mean, I might do a little bit with a finer brush, do a few more finer branches and that, but the trouble is you can keep going on, and actually, that probably is just nice as it is, isn't it?
Yeah, really nice.
I was a bit worried about the sky to begin with, but actually that's come out.
Yeah.
Just goes to show,
Yeah.
you can
Exactly.
don't get discouraged
Yeah.
if you think, oh, it's not really going right. Just keep with it, and then eventually it will look kind of alright.
Yeah, exactly. Very nice, lovely, well done.
Nerve-wracking, isn't it? But I thought, you know what, that's a good to feel uncomfortable because you're growing, aren't you? You're out of your comfort zone and... No, really. And that's the first time I've actually done a big painting as a demo. I was thinking, should I do a small one? But no, go big.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I'm pleased I've done that. That's, feel good for doing it now.
When you take your work,
Well, a little bit, but I sort of do it in stages. It's always like, well, let's concentrate on the sky.
Thank you so much.
And then dry it, and then show them in stages. Yeah. Yeah, but it's only like 6 people, not like 20, but yeah.
there you go. You go on a demonstration circuit.
Yeah. Once the first one's done, that's it. But even some of the artists that are watercolour masters are nervous. I can see. No. Yeah. Yes, yeah. But no, I'm quite pleased with that. So. I would have liked it to have been a bit more purpley, but actually it's nice that it's turned out a different colour actually.
Exactly.
It does look like a cherry red actually, which is the in colour, so you never know, it might help sell it.
It's very dramatic. You could frame them all, they're all probably like this one better.
Yeah.
I like the more
I like the
subtle bits
sky.
in the sky.
Yeah. I think it was a bit of nerves really as I was doing it. It wasn't quite
Is this sculpture?
trying to mix the colour. Because I don't know, the lighting is different.
I was
You
going to
can't
suggest,
really see really what you're mixing.
if you had a lamp
Yeah.
for the artist demonstrating, and then you could kill the lights in the
Yeah.
rest
I
of the
think
room,
that's a good idea.
and your projector
Yeah.
would
It'll
show
show
up
up well
better.
on
We should
the
do that.
Yeah.
If you had some,
But it'll have to be a good lamp.
Yeah.
daylight lamp.
Oh yes.
Otherwise, that's going to be different.